Hello, everyone, and welcome to Legacy of Leaders. I'm your host, Jon Heymann, and I'm excited to have a wonderful guest with me today. His name is Dan Eddleman from Heritage Capital Group, and he's going to tell us a little bit about that. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you. Glad to be here, John. Appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit about Heritage, and quite frankly, tell us how it's different than others in your field.
Sure. So Heritage Capital Group is a middle market M&A, merger and acquisition shop. It's the best way to summarize it. What we try to do is work with businesses who are growing, looking to sell their business, whether it be to a private equity firm or a strategic buyer. The businesses that we work with are typically valued for sale purposes at somewhere between $10 million and $250 million. And we'll work with those businesses for, could be a couple of years before they're ready to sell, to get them ready to be sold, or right up, when they're really at that point to sell and go through the sales process. And we work with them all the way through that process, which can take anywhere from 6 months to a year to typically sell a middle market business of that
So
sort.
you're primarily working with the executives of these companies, and for lack of a better word, on their succession plan. How are they going to dissolve what they're doing, move out of the way, and somebody else buys them out? Did I explain that?
Correct.
Okay.
It's really a succession plan, a growth plan for the business to continue on so that their employees can continue to be employed, and a way for the owner to take chips off the table to have cash in their pocket when most of them have put everything they have into that business.
Yeah. Well, as I said before, Dan, this is Legacy of Leaders, and I'm wondering, in your position at the group, the Heritage Group, what makes you most satisfied about the work you do?
Well, I think the most satisfying is, first of all, we're primarily dealing with closely held family businesses. Could be first generation, second generation, or third generation business. Those businesses are like a child to most owners. And so it's an emotional event to sell their business. And it's really making them understand the importance of selling, especially if they don't have a family member who really can adequately take over the business, and putting them in a financial position where they can retire, know their employees are taken care of, that they're going to still have jobs, because a lot of them, their employees are their family, and they want to be sure they're taken care of appropriately. And so it gives them an exit to feel good about, and the buyers, many times, will take those businesses and grow them, and it gets sold again, and the employees can participate.
Are still employed. So I never thought about the emotional side of that. Family businesses, they don't want their child to starve, so to speak, their business that they created. And so it's up to you to help find the appropriate buyer. Is that correct?
Correct. It's very important that it is the appropriate buyer. There's lots of buyers out there, but there's also a lot of buyers that are not the right buyers. And we have walked away from deals before where we said to a client, I know of a several $100 million deal we had on the table, and we went to our client and said, this is not the right kind of buyer.
No.
You need to walk away. We need to find a better buyer for you, for your company, for your employees.
Yeah. And you lead them into that decision.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Right, from stem to stern. So when they walk away, the employees are still employed, probably, mostly, and that I shouldn't say marriage, but it's not a divorce either. It's an amicable separation, I guess would be a better way to say it.
Yes, and a lot of it, at times, again, depending on who the buyer is, there may be people whose jobs are eliminated, but the seller knows going in that these employees are repetitive to the buyer, and that they are going to make changes, and they can deal with those changes at the front end so that there's no surprises.
Yeah, because there's an awful lot of fear when a buyout occurs. I know that both personally in the nonprofit world, but also in the business world, there's a lot of fear. Who's going to get cut? Middle management's going to go, but top management's, things like that. So how do you alleviate that kind of fear?
Well, the employees are the ones that have the fear. Again, in most transactions, the employees, other than the CFO, the CEO, the COO, don't really know that this transaction is occurring until it's really the day before it's done, because things happen. But, so then it's explaining to the employees, in many, many instances, the buyer creates more opportunities for the business to grow, which presents opportunities for the employees to grow, to take on more responsibility, to earn more compensation, or the buyers, have different compensation programs that may be more lucrative because of the nature of the business. So it's a matter of putting their fears to rest. And also, most sellers do stay on with the business for 6 months to a year, or longer, to make sure that that transition is smooth and to be sure the employees understand the world isn't going to be upside down the next day.
So does your company also do, very briefly, does it also do international buyouts? In other words, a company from another country wants to come in?
Yes. I mean, I can speak to one very interesting one that we did in the past, which is that we sold an alligator farm to Louis Vuitton.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was a French buyer buying from a business outside of Jacksonville.
Well, very cool, Dan. I appreciate your time. I'm glad you could be here today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Legacy of Leaders, and we were speaking with Dan Eddleman from the Heritage Capital Group. Have a wonderful day.